G'day mates, in today's video I'm doing my much requested chapter 4 wishlist. We have a brand new chapter in a few days, and with it we could have a brand new Fortnite. What would I pick to make Fortnite perfect? What shotguns do I want? What mythics do I want? What do I want the map to look like? Do I want an entirely new map? Do I want some of the old maps? How would I fix arena? What tournaments do I want? What do I want the FNCS game mode to be? All these questions you guys ask me all the time are going to be answered today. Let's just jump into it. Before I even get into talking about the map, let's talk about the weapons, because I don't know about you, but in the entire history of Fortnite, Chapter 3 is actually the least amount of time I've ever spent playing Fortnite, and I think the main reason for that was the guns. Of course, I want a new map, and I'll talk about that in a second, but the main thing for me is I want to log in to the first second of Chapter 4, and I want to see some of these weapons. Most importantly, I want to see a new shotgun loophole, one that actually rewards diversity of playstyle. Not every shotgun, like right now, you could easily argue that the Prime is the best shotgun, and almost no one can disagree with you. You can say in a certain situation the Ranger might be better with a certain player, but it's very hard to argue. And we've had that for quite a while now, where one shotgun is just objectively the best. I want to go back to Chapter 2, Season 5, when people were having full-on debates over which shotgun was better, and the reason for this is because none of them were the best. They fit your playstyle. So what I would love is a striker or pump, tac shotgun, charge shotgun, and then just for a bit of fun, a dragon's breath or double barrel. You don't need the last one. That's more for me because I really love super close range shotguns to get in someone's face and hit a big damage shot. But the first few especially, let me defend this. So striker and pump, I don't really mind which one. The striker and pump feels so similar these days. It really doesn't feel like a big difference between the two. I do not want either of these at any rarity to 200 pump. Hear me out. I know a lot of you guys love your 200 pumps for montages. I get that, but for the game's health, for competitive, I think one pumping, the bailouts you can hit with them, I just don't think it's worth it. But I do think the charge shotgun at purple and gold rarity should be able to one pump, especially when you've charged it, because if it doesn't, then almost no one would run the charge shotgun over the striker and pump. Then you have the tac shotgun as that really quick fire rate. You can use it to take walls, you can jump in the box, you hit more shots. It's just, it fits all three playstyles. You have your striker pump, which is your more conventional creative demon. You can edit, hit quick shots, you can play defensive. It's just an all-round really solid shotgun. Then you have the tac for those who want to play a little bit more aggressive, want to jump in the box, hit big shots, and really just get in people's faces. Then you have the charge shotgun that you can kind of play a bit more distance with. If you fully charge it, you do have the potential to get that one big shot, or if you fully piece someone up and you have the time to charge it, you're rewarded for that. I just think this would be such a more fun, rewarding, engaging shotgun loophole, and everyone would debate over which one's better because it would fit their playstyle. It'd also be cool to see potentially some kind of side grading brought back to the game so you can get the shotgun you want. Because what happens with a lot of the flex shotguns like the Dragon's Breath or sometimes the charge shotgun, no one really runs them in a competitive setting. So even if you do want to run it and it's your preferred shotgun, if you don't find it on spawn, anyone you eliminate along the way isn't usually carrying it, where side grading gives you that option. And this is what I want more than anything in Chapter 4. I want a new, diverse, fun shotgun loophole. Now, assault rifles, and this follows a very similar logic to my shotguns. I want infantry rifle, regular ARs, so like your blue ARs and scars, like Chapter 1 ARs, tac AR, the one that shoots the SMG bullets, and the old burst rifle. Now, when I say old burst rifle, I don't mean the 2 burst rifle. I'd actually love to go back to the triple burst rifle, but have no red dot scope. I think any weapon that's had a red dot scope or a first person scope that isn't the sniper rifle has just been absurdly broken. The main benefit of these guns, which I have really liked, is it's made it a lot easier for controller players to get their surge in competitive and get their long range damage, because all of those guns without first person scopes are really difficult for controller players. I would actually like long range aim assist to be dialed up a little bit. I'm saying that as a mouse and keyboard player. It's just what I think, but I think that's a very diverse loophole that again rewards different playstyles. Like the infantry, it hits like an absolute truck, but you have to hit your shots, and if you run the infantry, you don't have any spray weapons, so maybe you need to run the tac shotgun, because if you run infantry and pump and you miss your shot, you're really going to be screwed. Then you have the regular AR as just an all-round solid gun, good for spraying, good for surge tags, a solid gun. Then you have the tac AR, which lends more towards like close range spraying. It uses SMG bullets, so in competitive you can split ammo. One of your teammates can run regular AR, one of you can run SMG bullets, and then you get to split that ammo to help out with the playstyles. And then the old burst rifle, because I think if you can consistently track your AR shots, especially in a row with the burst, I think you should be rewarded for that. And I think the triple burst made it feel more exciting, whereas the double burst shot felt a little bit different, but not different enough for me. And I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with my AR loophole? I'm pretty confident on the shotgun loophole. ARs, if I don't get these, I won't be as upset, but I do think this would be so much more fun to play around with. Now, let's get into talking about utility, mobility. These are like your shockwaves, your bounce pads, all the really fun items that don't just fall into the conventional loophole. And I think it's these items that really make a season or make a chapter. Now, I'm going to bring out the graph that I brought out for my last video, but I'm going to explain it. I know it looks scuffed, it's in paint, but hear me out, it'll make sense. So the higher up it is on the left is how much more fun the item is, and the further it is on the right is how much less competitive it is. So if an item is really far on the right, like the goo gun, I think it's terrible for competitive, and the lower it is means it's less fun. And now this is where I think the Fortnite's been missing the mark recently. I'm okay to have items that make the game less competitive, they're a little bit broken, if they're more fun. Take the goo gun, for example, or even like the primal shotgun. It really hurts the game competitively. The better player doesn't often win the fight. It's just whoever has this gun and just sprays with it. And even when you're using it, it's not that fun, right? Like no one's like, yeah, man, the primal shotgun was so fun. I got to hold down left click and run at people. So it's frustrating to die when you verse it. It's not even that fun when you use it. So I just think it's a terrible item. Take something like a shockwave, for example, right? Yes, it does diminish the game competitively a little bit. You can shockwave in boxes, you can shockwave on high ground, knock people off. It's frustrating, but how fun is it? It's so much more fun when you do that. It's so much more fun when you use it. So I think those kind of items need to start coming back. I don't want things to come back that are completely crazy, like the caddy shockwave launcher, but I think shockwaves and items of that kind of caliber would be fantastic in the game, like heavy snipers. Yes, very frustrating when you die to them. Yes, they are quite broken, but they're so incredibly fun. I think items like bounce pads should just 100% be in every single meta because they are pretty much the perfect representation of the perfect item. Really good for competitive. If you use them poorly, you will die. If you use them well, you can pop off, but they're also really fun. That is the perfect item. And I think what's happened a lot, and people like myself did argue for this back in those early chapter 2 seasons when there was too much craziness in the game. We wanted to go back to a more basic loophole. I have admitted multiple times I was wrong. I thought I wanted a more basic competitive loophole. I was wrong. I want some fun stuff back. I don't want to go all the way back to World Cup where everything was crazy, but I've been playing a lot of custom games recently in creative on a map that I made that has World Cup loophole, and it is just so much more enjoyable. And honestly, at this point, if pros are going to quit because some of these fun items come back, see you later. Bye. Because if some of these fun items don't start coming back, people aren't going to want to play competitive at all, and there is going to be no competitive. I want some fun items in chapter 4. I would love the shadow bombs, I would love shockwaves, I would love bounce pads to come back, and I would like snipers to one-shot headshot, but I know a lot of people disagree with me on that one. I'll take it at least in arena, if not in tournaments. The last weapon I want to talk about before jumping into maps are Mythics. I want Mythics back in the game, but I don't want them just to be regular assault rifles that do a little bit more damage or a shotgun that hits for 2 extra damage. I want them to be completely unique, different items that you only get by them being a Mythic. Think about the grapples in early chapter 2. Think about the caddy launcher, but I don't really want the caddy launcher back, but you get the idea. I would want things like, I don't know, maybe like a shield bubble that has 2 uses. Maybe it's like a launch pad with 2 uses. Maybe it's the one rift to go on the map. Maybe it's like a slurp cannon. Utility items. Obviously, I'm just pulling examples out of the top of my head, but you get what I mean. I don't want it just to feel like, oh, I got an AR that's slightly more damage, because it's not that much more fun to get. But how fun was it when you jumped into an arena game and you're like, you know what? I want the grapple this game. I'm going to go shark. I'm going to get the grapple. You got it. You felt rewarded, and then you go pop off and you have fun with it. I think that is what we need to bring back, and I think vaults do come in line with that. I like the fact that vaults are back in the game, but without the mythics in them, once you get a little bit stacked, there's no fun going for them. But I loved it when I would play arena and maybe I didn't have the grapple, but I saw a guy who did, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna kill that guy. I'm gonna take the grapple. It gave you like kind of mini objectives throughout the game, and yes, it was harder to get your hands on it, and yes, it was more risky to go for it, but then that risk was rewarded. And I think that goes for competitive as well. If you want to go to some of these drop spots that are higher risk, you should be rewarded for it with fun items that change the game. That's my view on Mythics. I really hope they come back and it's not just ARs that do a little bit more damage, because that is so boring. All right, let's talk map changes. A new chapter, we are presumably getting an entirely new map, or at least mostly a new map. I did make a video recently how leaks have come out that it looks like there are going to be some POIs or some parts from old maps in this map, and it is the fracture event. The world is fracturing, all the different timelines are coming together. A lot of people are theorizing that the map could look something like this. Again, this is just a concept art, but you can see what it means. Now, I would want there to be more changes than this. I don't want it to just be like a combination of all the old chapters. I would love it to be like maybe 80% of a new map and maybe like 10% of it goes to like chapter 1 or chapter 2, maybe combine them, maybe even more than that, maybe like 15% to chapter 1 and chapter 2 PYs, and then like 5% chapter 3. I don't want too much from chapter 3, not because I think the chapter 3 map was bad, but just because we just got done playing it. When you jump into a new chapter, you want it to feel really fresh, really new. I think one PY on the map being like the block and it being like in some kind of like temporal rift state where every single week it turns into an old PY would be really cool and really fun, and would hit that like nostalgia piece of, oh my god, look, I can go drop at Polar Peak. No one really wants to drop there. Let's say Risky Reels. Oh my gosh, I can go to Risky Reels. It would feel exciting, it would feel fun, but it wouldn't just feel like Epic's being lazy and not giving us a new map. So we'll see how that one goes. I have a feeling it is going to have a fair bit of the old maps on it. Whether people like that or not, we'll have to see. I talked about how I do want the vaults on the new map, and I want them to give really, really fun mythics. I want new and fun, interesting biomes. So I think one of the best maps we've ever had is the end of chapter 1. Not just because the game was fantastic, but look at the map. It looked and felt so cool. You had the ice biomes, you had the jungle biome, you had the desert biome, you had like mega mall, you had so many cool areas of the map, and they all felt and looked significantly different. We're getting a bit better with that in chapter 3. We have some new areas on the map, like all the new mushroom areas. We had the rift tree. That was all really, really cool. What I want to avoid is what we had like during the middle of chapter 2, when like the entire map was just green hills with some trees. Like there was almost no distinguishing factors after about chapter 2 season 6. Once we had primal season, nothing really changed after that. I did not like that. I do not want to go back to that. The other thing I want is I want more mobility around the map, and I know chapter 3, especially this season, had some crazy mobility. You had the balloons. I want smaller mobility this more often. So like geysers, even like the mushrooms, like just things that send you a little bit of a distance. They don't send you to the moon, because people are always going to camp these positions and they're going to get really annoying to try to use. And also for no builds, I think if there's an open area, if they are going to make this new map catered more towards no builds like they've talked about, which I think is great. No builds has been a huge success. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Rather than just putting buildings or cover everywhere, because cover can still be broken, put more little forms of mobility. If I'm running in the open, have a geyser. I can use it to maybe fly, have maybe a zip line, have like the spider webs, have like the mushrooms, something that sends me a little bit of a distance, but doesn't just send me to the moon. That is what I think would be the perfect map so far, but we'll have to see what they do with it. The last part I wanted to talk about was just different concepts I think that could make the game way better outside of just the weapons and the maps. It's one I've talked about for so long, and at this point, I really don't think Epic's gonna do it, but I would absolutely love every season to have a crowd-funded skin where it puts on a big community-style tournament at the end of it. So what that means is during the entire season in the item shop, you go there and there is a skin, and it's like the chapter 4 season 1 skin. There's a counter above it that says how much money is raised, and at a certain date that stops, and that money goes towards like a Winter Royale style tournament. Not an FNCS, not a World Cup. This money should go back to the players and the community who spent their money buying the skin and putting on a really fun tournament. Obviously, pros would still get rewarded from this massively, because even with the Winter Royale, the top prize pools were big, but I want it to be spread really thin so a lot of people have a chance to get that money back. I don't get why Epic doesn't do this. I know that's profit that they can take straight into their pocket, but I feel like that would drive the community so crazy. I, as a streamer, as a content creator, would be like, guys, go buy the skin, make the prize pool massive, let's put on an awesome tournament. And then they don't have to then put that money towards the prize pool because it came directly from the skin. There are obviously a few issues with this. People think that Epic doesn't want to do it because it'll show off how much they make from a skin, but I think most people would be able to understand the fact that this skin would be bought more than other skins, because even if I didn't like the skin, it could literally just be a potato. I would buy it just for the tournament. Also, that kind of reasoning has gone out the window, where obviously when we had all the war on Ukraine, Epic did release how much money they made in a few days because they pledged all of it to the Ukraine relief fund. So now we know a rough idea of how much Epic is making, but at the same time, again, people went crazy buying things because they knew it was going towards charity. So I don't think that reasoning flies anymore. Also, as far as competitive goes, and we're talking about the community, I want more skin cups. I don't know why there aren't more skin cups, especially for no build. So everyone gets a chance to play in them. There's a much higher chance people get the skins. They're fun. Epic has promised multiple times we're gonna get more skin cups, and I feel like this season we had like none of them. We had almost no skin cups. So I want more of those back in the game, 100%. As far as the competitive format, I would love it if we had a trio FNCS with a 2-round trio cash cup every week, but then a 1-round solo cash cup, maybe even 2 1-round solo cash cups. I think the only 2-round cash cup should be what the FNCS game mode is, because it builds storylines. We get to see who the best player is in set lobbies. But then when it comes to solo cash cups and the other game modes that aren't the main competitive game mode, I don't think it needs to finish finish in a set lobby. I really miss just getting on, watching the best players go at it for 3 hours and seeing how many points they come out on, and rewarding some of the players who are better W key fighters. They're better in opens lobbies. It's a different skill set being good at opens lobbies compared to set lobbies, and we are heavily rewarding set lobbies because it is more exciting. But I think the more set lobbies we have, the less exciting it makes set lobbies. Like when it gets to FNCS, people seem to have been like, oh, I've already watched the set lobbies every week for 8 weeks leading up to this. Even though FNCS is bigger and means more, it's starting to feel less and less like that because of how many 2-round cash cups there are. Just my take, if they still keep doing 2-round cash cups for solos, I'll take it. I'm not going to be annoyed, but I do think that would be a little bit better. I think specifically no build cups should really focus on those 1-round tournaments as well, because again, it just makes it higher participation. It makes it more fun. It makes it a little bit more casual, which I think is the strength of no builds right now. Obviously, no build still pulls high viewership because of creators like Tfue playing really, really well and qualifying for the 2-round cash cups. But most of the 2nd-round cash cups, all the money seems to be just going to conventional build pros, with a few no build pros rising up the ranks. It's kind of still developing as a pro scene, but I think the more we develop no builds as a conventional pro scene could actually lead to its downfall. It'll go down the same path to make people not like playing it for the same reason why they stopped enjoying playing regular builds. Where if most of the no build cups stayed as 1-round cups, you'd still jump in, have fun with your friends, it'd still be really enjoyable. The last thing I want to talk about is Arena, and this is a big one. We are stuck in a really bad state right now where Epic has tried to make Arena competitive, which I respect. A lot of people ask for that, but it's missed the mark, but it's also not fun. It's in this weird middle ground where it doesn't feel like it's worth playing because the games are really stacked and you get good practice, but it's also not just a quick fun way to jump on and get some points and mess around with friends either. We got to pick one. If Epic can't make Arena competitive, and at this point I'm starting to think it might just be impossible with all the suggestions I've given, I think people just don't see Arena as a proper game mode. So unless they do a complete rebrand, a complete rework, put in some insane like rewards into it and really focus down on it, I think it might be worth just going back to an older style Arena like mid chapter 2, where you jump on, there's not too much bus fare, you get a fair few points for kills, the games are against decent players, there's siphon, faster mat farming, and it just feels kind of like a step up from pubs. I think honestly, we either have to go back to that or we need to make the game competitive, because right now Arena is the most boring it's ever been, and I personally would absolutely love to grind Arena in chapter 4 if it went either ways. If it stays the way it is right now, I don't know how much fun it's going to be. All right, guys, you know the deal. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.